Hi and welcome to this podcast with me, Gita Joshi. I am an art dealer, a curator and the producer for Artist Open Studios. And today I have with me artist and designer Sarah Hamilton. Welcome, Sarah.
Thank you very much, Gita.
So why don't you tell us how you came to be a designer maker? Because did you go straight out of college? Have you always worked as that, or did you do something else in between?
Immediately I left college, I was wondering what to do, just like every recent arts graduate, and I decided to start hand printing cards on my kitchen table. And I made a small collection. Then I sent them to a number of buyers from Heels, the Conran Shop Designers Guild and Paper Chase, and I was very lucky in that they all placed really quite considerable orders, and that got me started in my business.
That's fabulous, and I think a lot of the listeners would be interested in hearing how you make sales connections now.
Well, obviously it's changed quite a lot over the years since I've been doing it. My main connections nowadays are made on social media. Social media is such a crucial part of my networking experience. I use it so much. I get so many sales, and it's not just direct sales, it's a very subtle experience selling on social media. You don't just sort of plonk up your work and just say, hey, come and buy it. It's much more about making connections.
Yeah, I think this is one of the things that a lot of artists and designer makers, particularly those starting out, don't realise. There seems to be this first, they're kind of a bit scared about visibility, and then they're taught that they need to be on social media, so it's just constantly sort of showing images of work and prices, and it's just like that's not really nurturing me.
Absolutely.
Into.
It's so there's a fantastic thing I read about social media when I read a really interesting book when I first started out using Twitter and social and Instagram to try and promote my work. I read a really interesting book, and it's one of the things it said is you've got to look at it this way. Would you go to a party and just give your business card immediately to somebody, say, buy my work, but this is what I do? No, you talk to them, you make small talk, you chit-chat about their life, you'd ask them where they went on holiday, and then maybe at the end of the evening you might say, oh, by the way, I'm an artist, do come to my open studio. It's so much more about that kind of relationship. It's much more about making connections, supporting other people. There's a rule. You should support other people a third of the time, you should promote your work a third of the time, and you should be a general, all-round, interesting and friendly person the rest of the time.
Yeah, that's a really good point, actually. I mean, it reminds me a lot of what Gary Vee teaches, and it's taught very widely in the business world that I work in, where you give before you ask for something, and Gary Vee talks about this in Jab, 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 Right Hook, which is all about, giving and being interesting and interested before you particularly ask to make a sale, I think. So thinking of the artists that I work with under Open Studios, so that's a lot of people. There are a lot of designer makers as well as fine artists. What would your advice be to them around using social media? Because I know many of them relegate it to the bottom of their to-do list.
Well, first and foremost, it would be turn the to-do list upside down and put it right at the top, because it is the most important and crucial part of anyone's way to promote their work. I think people really do relegate it, and it's such an incredible shame. It's completely free and it's absolutely life-changing. It's not something people should be intimidated about. It's a very friendly and supportive network, especially within the campaign that we run, obviously, and across so many artists and designers and open studios and galleries are incredibly supportive and really look at people's work and really want to help them on it. So I just don't think people need to be much more relaxed about it and just really put it into their everyday life.
I think when people are being quite genuine on social media, that really helps the engagement that they get from their followers. But I think that also helps that artist who might be shy, if they're particularly starting out on social media. I think that makes them feel sort of stronger in their purpose of being on there. They're being authentic, because there's so many tips and tricks and all these sort of things. Yeah, I think people need to take the pressure off themselves, because I think that the posts and the artist that are most engaging are the ones that are much more relaxed and, just going with the flow on social media and the way they write and, the images they choose.
Completely. People do not need to get hung up. I mean, I can post just cheerful chat to people. It's not. You don't really need to do really scheduled posts and sit there and be very. You need to remain professional. But you can be you can just discuss people's work. You can go, oh, that looks great, or talk to somebody about their cat, or talk about how their day's going. It's just a very nice and relaxed way to be part of a community.
Well, I absolutely agree. My business, we definitely make sales through social media, and I know that you do as well. I think one of the things that a lot of people overlook is actually the bonuses that come with their visibility. It's not just the direct sales, but in the case of going back to the story where you were selling to Heels and the Conran shop, I think people today have different opportunities of getting in front of major stores and retailers and stockists by taking ownership of building their own audience themselves, so that once a buyer goes looking for them, they've already, they can see there's actual social proof that
absolutely
the work is.
You're so right, Gita. You're so right. This is one of the very important example. So I just recently wrote a book. When I went to the publishers with the proposal, they looked at my social media. They looked to see if I was somebody who was prepared to put myself out there. They want to ultimately they want to sell my book. If they think I'm not somebody who's going to promote it or be part of it, or I don't have a following, they're going to be less interested in it. So everybody needs to think, if people are doing exhibitions and they're choosing 20 people to be in the exhibitions, if 19 of them are really massively into social media and there's one person who's sitting there who hasn't even got a Twitter account, people are not going to be thinking that those people are going to be people that are going to bring people into that exhibition. And ultimately, if you're putting on an exhibition, you want people to come to it. Obviously, Gita, you curate exhibitions. How important is a social media presence of the artists you might consider you exhibiting?
When I receive submissions, I do look at. I look them up online. So that's a combination of their website. And wherever else they're visible. So sometimes there's so many links to like a portfolio online marketplace like Saatchi Online or something that they're looking at. So I kind of look them up. It's true. Yeah, we do the research, and that also includes social media. And now I do use social media quite a bit, and I use my mailing list, and we have lots of ways of reaching new people as well as our regular buyers and collectors. So what that means is when I'm looking at artists, if somebody already has a social media presence, then they understand, how that works, what it does for them, that they're bringing an audience to complement mine. So yeah, I do look at that. And I think a lot of buyers, going back to what you were saying about approaching the stores back in the day, I think a lot of buyers will be doing that as well. But I think, pretty much anybody that you're looking to do business with, whether it's a curator, an art dealer, whether it's for representation or a one-off exhibition, or, to be stocked in their stores. Yeah, I think it's, totally feasible that everybody is looking at how active you are on social media and how engaged you are in promoting your work and how consistently as well. And
it's not about judging. It's not a question of saying, are you really, really good, or is somebody, it's not about whether you're good or anything like that. It's just about whether you look like somebody who's passionately involved in it.
Yeah, I agree.
It's are you going to be somebody who's going to collaborate with the gallery owner? Are you going to be somebody who's going to help the shop owner say, my work is stocked in this shop, because they want your customers to go to their shop. It really is a collaboration between you, the artist, and the shop or promoter.
I agree. And I think also, collaborating with other artists, whether if it's in an exhibition, then there's like that cross promotion that happens. You build your own network as well that way. But also again with the stockist for designer makers and crafters, it's the same thing, right? Promoting other brands that are on social media but that are perhaps stocked by that retailer as well, and building your sort of network and peer group that way.
Yeah, so I hope that we have convinced you to get your Twitter, get your book out and read all about it. There's so much online that you can read how to build your network. There's endless tips and advice.
So can I talk about one thing that I like to see on artists' Instagram particularly? I like to see studio shots, and I like to see the maker space, and sometimes pictures of the artist as well. And I think this is one of the things people then actually use social media to hide behind it. And, you'll only see pictures of the work, and you'll only see pictures of like finished products. And for me, that's not giving me the full story. That's fine if you're a brand and that is all you want, that is all you're doing. But if you are doing something that is handmade or bespoke or a one-off or something that, if it is in the fine art space that has involved research and experimentation and then, different iterations of the thing that you're finally ending up with. I really like to see the evolution of that told in pictures.
Yeah.
That's not just like a story and it's not a video. It's just, it might be a bunch of pictures over 2 months or whatever it is. And I think for me, I really like artist studios anyways, sort of a serial hanger-outer at artist studios.
Yeah, you're absolutely right that some of the most popular Instagram accounts are people who talk about the process and they share their processes. I mean, I'm quite guilty because I tend to often just put the finished products and put finished designs and drawings up, but I am going to make a concerted effort to engage people in the process, because actually the process is really important. I do a lot of work to get to those, to get, and that's the story I tell at exhibitions. So I should.
Yeah. So being able to tell that in, on Instagram, for example, in pictures or something would be really nice. But I think artist studios and maker spaces, and actually, the artist at work now and again as well. I think those are really, really good pictures that give context, particularly if you're preparing to approach, galleries, dealers, curators, or any of that. So, something else to keep in mind.
I'm often asked by artists and designers what platform is the most successful or important for them to be on, and I have my own views on this, but I'd be fascinated to hear yours, Gita.
So is that, you mean social media platforms? Which one to use? Gosh, I don't know, because, there's new ones coming out all the time, but I think, Twitter, if you've been around for a while, but I have to say I'm using Twitter a bit less. I am spending more and more time on Instagram. They say it is the fastest growing, but really, I think you just have to get on with the platform that serves what you need and where you think your customers potentially are. So Instagram is really nice and easy to use. Obviously, it's super visual, but you can't put, links in the comments. But I think for me, like I said, I'm using Twitter a little bit less at the moment. But I not so much that I would never use it again. I'm definitely using it now and again. I think Facebook for me is, I still like Facebook. I think it is obviously the biggest. And one of the great things for this, actually, particularly for artists and makers starting out, is that, the Facebook business page now can pretty much replace having a website, because you can integrate shopping in there, you can, promote the site through adverts and stuff. In the posts, you can have pictures, you can have text, and you can have links, which all three of that functionality isn't available across the other platforms. So I think there's something still to be said for it, and I think there's still a lot of people that use and shop on there, or at least sort of see, the products would be promoted on there, and then they'll go through to an Etsy shop or wherever, things are placed. So I think for me, it's just do the ones you can manage. I think that's the most important thing. I wouldn't say, you have to get on Snapchat and you have to go and do LinkedIn. That's the one we forgot we ever joined, isn't it? LinkedIn.
Linked out. I only use Instagram, Twitter and Facebook, and I think that for me and for the campaign, all three are crucially important, and I use them almost in equal. Well, actually, I use Facebook less, strangely. I use Twitter if we're trying to get something across, because retweets are the most incredibly important way of sharing a message, and that's what I ask people to do loads. Please retweet the Just a Card campaign tweets more, because they help spread the word.
In your famous capital letters.
It works.
I know.
You might laugh, but it works. So but Instagram is fantastic because you can write longer posts.
Yeah, I like
well, I know
that.
you've got the 280 characters now, but it's not the same, and it's lovely to have we're obviously visual people, so using images is really important. But for me, I just think both are really important.
Yeah. And are there any others that you're using or trying out? Like YouTube? Are you doing YouTube or Linked Out or
I'm
Snapchat?
not really. No, I think I've got my hands absolutely full with what I do at the moment. I think if I took another one on, I I think I just need to calm down and just focus on the ones we use.
Excellent. Thank you, Sarah, so much for coming in. It's been, really awesome actually talking about our mutual passion for social media and, the creative industries as well.
Thanks very much, Gita. So see you in cyberspace, everybody.
And actually, before we go, why don't you tell people where they can follow you online?
Yep, for sure. So on Twitter at Just a Card, we are at Just a Card 1, and for my personal, it's Sarah Hamilton PS, and on Instagram, it's Just a Card. And I also have a Instagram about my book called at HOC Cardbook.
Cool. And you can follow me on Instagram at Also Major Art, on Facebook at Empowering Artists, where we share open calls and call-outs for grants, funding, exhibitions, and all sorts of other good stuff. And on Twitter at Empower_artists, and also at Also Major Art on Twitter. Thank you for tuning in, and we'll see you next time.